What are the 5 costs that you need to be aware of when you're buying a home? Stay tuned. If you're thinking about buying a home in Southern California, I want to help prepare you for the different costs that are going to be associated with your home purchase. I'm Scott Himelstein with the Scott Himelstein Group, and today I want to talk to you about the 5 primary costs that you should consider when you're going to be purchasing a home here in Southern California. Number 1, and probably the most obvious, is your down payment. Now, a lot of people believe that you actually have to buy a home with 20% down or more. That's not true. While yes, if you put down 20%, your monthly payment is going to be less, but you could conceivably buy a home with 3%, 3.5% FHA financing, and even 0% down if you qualify for a VA loan or are buying a property in a rural area. So you do not have to put 20% down, but again, just remember, the more down payment you have, the lower your monthly payment is going to be. Number 2 is you're gonna want to get a home inspection on the property that you're going to buy. Now, this is a cost that is the responsibility of the buyer. Now, your home inspection, depending on the size of the house and if you have a pool, is generally going to run about $450 to $650. Might be a little more depending on the quality of the inspector that you might actually have. Now, in addition to that, you're probably going to want to get a sewer line inspection, and that's to have a camera scope the main sewer line, because you as the homeowner are responsible not only from the curb, but all the way to the city connection in the middle of the street. And that normally runs you about $250 to $300, depending on where the cleanout and access is for the sewer line company. So when it comes to inspections, we usually say that plan probably about $1,000 to $1,200 when it comes to inspection costs, because at the end of the day, if you're buying a home that's $1 million, you want to know every nook and cranny what the condition of the home is. Third on the list is appraisal. You're going to need to get an appraisal, assuming you're getting a loan. Now, the bank is going to want to make sure that the value of the home is at least the price that you're paying for the home. And, they want to make sure that the only thing that's on the lot is an Andy Gump and they're issuing you a loan. So they want to make sure that the property is actually worth $1 million. So if you are writing a contract for 1.2 and the house is only for $1 million, well, that could be an issue if the appraised value doesn't work out. So in a perfect world, the home appraises ideally above the purchase price that you're buying the home for. But for an appraisal, typical cost runs between $450 to $550. Again, it depends on the size of the house. If you're buying a huge home, typically over 4,000 square feet, well, you're probably going to be paying over $1,000, sometimes a couple $1,000. And then sometimes your lender may require a second appraisal. So just know that if you're obtaining financing, you're going to have to be able to put that money up front. It's not a cost that you can defer, so it's an upfront cost, so that way the lender can order the appraisal itself. Number 4 on the list are closing costs. So most likely, and most of our clients usually average about 2% of the purchase price when it comes to closing costs. Now, your closing costs will include things such as escrow fees, title fees, as well as lender fees. That's a discussion you can have with your lender. Now, we usually say that, again, average is about 2% of the sales price. We've had a few that, are maybe closer to 3%, and we've had a few that are closer to 1%. But I'd say as a whole, if you're trying to just get an idea of what to expect and how much money you're going to have to bring in for closing costs, I would say plan on about 2%. Fifth and finally, and probably the most overlooked when buying a home, is moving costs. Well, you're going to have to move now that you're buying a new home. And so a lot of people don't factor in the cost to move. Now, yes, you can go to U-Haul and get a truck for $50. You see those big U-Haul trucks that have the big $50 on it, but that doesn't include the mileage after a certain point and how many days you're actually going to need to actually borrow the truck and the helpers that's going to be involved. And then if you hire a moving company, some of the questions you need to ask are, well, should I have 3 people or should I have 4 people? Well, 4 people will be more expensive, but the job will get done quicker, so your cost may be minimized there. And then plus the fuel cost if you hire a moving company. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of times people forget how expensive it is to move, even if you're doing it yourself. So those are your top 5 things that you need to be paying attention to, your top 5 primary costs when it comes to buying a home. Now, one thing I would like to add is that when you're working with us, because of working with our preferred lender especially, we can offset some of these costs. And that includes the appraisal as well and the inspection costs. Working with our lender will actually cover those costs when you use their services. So something to keep in mind. Have any questions about buying or selling? Feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Scott Himelstein with the Scott Himelstein Group, and thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you soon.